Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 6 of 2026. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by FanDuel Sports, a proud partner with the NFL. If you'd like to support the Odds Breakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, become a member, pick any. For winning cappers, get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. If nothing else, please visit the Odds Breakers, become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. Another great week of football has passed, my friends. And yes, the Bears have faltered, unfortunately. I thought they played a tough game in the cold against the Rams. And yeah, the cold thing was probably a little bit overblown. But at the end of the day, they just couldn't get it done. Caleb, certainly not perfect all day. Threw behind a lot of receivers, but he made that amazing play at towards the end of the fourth quarter. Just crazy seeing that again. Just like you saw against the Packers, and then this one was a touchdown. We just absolutely blew up at home. Just had a bunch of people watching it over at the house, and we just all got up and went nuts. We thought we might win the game there, but at the end of the day, DJ Moore kind of was lazy on that route, and Caleb threw it into the open seam, and it was a very open seam. He just didn't cut across. Now, Rome Odunze would have been open in the end zone if he decided to gun it. But at the same time, you only had 15 yards to go. Why do you have to go for that? You had first down. You can get a field goal there. I feel like they jumped the gun a little bit. I thought that they fought hard. They fought hard, but the Rams just kind of fought harder. Just amazing plays were being done there. The Rams, their defense just stepped it up when they needed to. Obviously they let the big play to tie it, but they stepped it up to win the game. The Bears defense really stepped up. And Ben Johnson did the right thing not going for two because they had an opportunity to win the game on offense to kick a field goal. Everything went right. You don't necessarily kick a two, or most of the time you don't kick the two when you're at home. You were the dog, though, so that makes it maybe a little bit more questionable, but still, after all that, why make it a coin flip? Play some extra football. Your defense is doing well enough. Brisker was an absolute beast, man. What a stud he was. I thought the officiating was a little sus. There's definitely some holds going on that wasn't called on the Rams. Illegal shifts not called. They subbed called on the Texans. One penalty for 5 yards. I just was like shocked by some of those receiver holds that freed up running backs that they just wouldn't call. Hercules Crew is one of the worst, and it's tough. Now, don't get me wrong. I like letting them play, but if it's really significant and it really stops something or opens something up and it's obvious, you got to call that. Otherwise, what are we doing? At the same time, the better team won. The Rams won. It sucks to say that as a Bears fan. I think the Rams are better. I think the Bears need to button up a few things. DJ Moore needs an ass whipping for being so lazy on that route because they had a shot to win it. It would have been one of those just crazy comeback from nothing victories. I don't know how they got away from Puka Nacua in the third quarter as he was just tearing up the Bears from the slot in the first half. At the same time, the Bears were missing a lot of guys at linebacker, and Kobe Parkinson had a great game like I thought. Stafford ended up going under his receiving yards, which was awesome. Like I said, our prop plays were great. Our over wasn't, but the Bears did cover at the end of the day to help my weekend out. It's funny about the Bears. There were some throws that were a little bit behind the receivers, so it wasn't like Caleb's perfect day. It certainly wasn't. And some of that first throw to Odunze and that first drive that we went 4 and out, he should have caught that touchdown. It was slightly behind him, but you're a receiver that gets paid millions of dollars. This isn't like flag football where I do see kids make that catch. This is you getting paid millions of dollars. You're going to get some throws behind you. You have to catch them, And Loveland missed a bunch. And there was some great defense on the Rams. I thought the Rams secondary was really the star of the show. I don't think their linebackers were so much, but I guess the right side of their defensive line with Verse there and their secondary was the star of the show for the Rams. But the Bears had an opportunity to win that game. I agreed with Ben Johnson not to go for 2 because you're at home and you had momentum and you stopped the Rams. You had a chance to kick, field goal, and win. Yeah, everything went right except for that DJ Moore route. But also at the same time, do you need to go for a massive chunk of yards when it's first down there and you just need 15 yards for a field goal? Probably not. So hopefully there's some learning lessons here. Hopefully the Bears get better next year. Caleb will have to be a little bit better for first 2 or 3 quarters going on. They're going to now go to a first-place schedule, which is kind of brutal. Keep going back in reverse. That Texans game against the Patriots was really pathetic. Stroud was awful, just plain awful, and D'Amico Ryans doesn't even switch him out. The announcers were awful that game. ESPN was awful. The illegal shift they called, the guy was going into a 3-point stance. That happens every time a guy is in motion on the line. It absolutely makes no sense to call it there. There was not. You're allowed to go in a 3-point stance. That made no sense at all. Of course, it took a touchdown from the Texans. But the Texans had the lead 10-7, and what does dumbass D'Amico Ryans do? Throwing the ball all over. Stroud had 4 interceptions in the first half. He should have had way more because there's a bunch of tips, too. What are you doing throwing the ball? When you're the Texans, run, punt. You want to punt. You want to keep them pinned and have them screw up, which they were. That was maybe the worst call game, and actually, unfortunately, one of our best bets that we lost, plus the 3.5 with the Texans because of just D'Amico Ryans being an awful coach and C.J. Stroud just looking like Jamarcus Russell. It was just, what a waste of a great defense. That's really what that was. The Patriots, probably the luckiest team I've ever seen up to this point, ever in the NFL. They're good. They're just, I don't know. We'll get to that. Obviously, going in reverse again, I watched some of that Seattle-San Fran game. It wasn't much of a game. Seattle's defense is the truth. I would probably put their defense slightly right under the Texans right now, and they're probably going to be favored in the Super Bowl. They're favored by the opening lines 2.5, 3. I'll get to that in a little while. It's just Niners couldn't do nothing. They couldn't move the ball. Once they got in plus territory, Seattle's defense tightened up. The Seahawks are just too stacked and they're too healthy. The only guys that they lost were like Chaz Surratt, and that's about it. This team has some of the best secondary with Weatherspoon, Nick Emanori, and obviously their safeties, Love and Bryant. This team is just beastly. Their front line, Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, and DeMarcus Lawrence, they're just ungodly good right now. Helps to have a head coach that was the defensive coordinator at the Ravens and Mike McDonald. And, it kind of shows how good he was because look at how bad the Ravens defense has been since. But, now their offense is humming. They got studs, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Sam Darnold's not turning into a pumpkin just yet. Could happen, but this could be the team of destiny this year. It could be the Seahawks. And, man, this is a full all 3 phases team that I think doesn't have the chinks in the armor that other teams do. I will say that the Rams have a better chance to beat them than the Bears did, especially away from home. I thought the Rams should have beat them last time away from home, but right now I believe that the Seahawks took a step forward, and I think the Rams, it just kind of feels like they took a step backward, and I believe the Seahawks might be better. And then I'm finally going to the Denver-Buffalo game. That was just an absolute mess of a game. The refs were not consistent. There was holding and PI calls that weren't called, and then you called it at the end of the game. The catch by Cooks, look, that happened in the Bears game too. They correctly ordered it to the Rams. Because once your knee is down, even if it's a tie, they always give it to the offense. Even if you're both holding the ball, they always give it to the offense. They didn't that time because they were pressured by the home field. They didn't. And that was complete bullshit. Because I've been watching football for years, and they always award that to the offense. I disagree with the rule of awarding to the offense. I think it should be go to the defense if you're both kind of fighting for it. But I've seen it too many times award the other way, just like they did with the Rams-Bears. The Rams didn't make a football move. There was no football move there. He didn't have it for more than a split second when his knee was down. But that's how you've been calling it for years. And I've seen all the football zebras and all that stick up for it. Now they're quiet as a mouse. They don't even want to talk about it, because they know that was bullshit. That was absolute bullshit. They just kind of make things up as they go, which drives people nuts. And that's why people say it's so rigged and fixed and all that. But it is biased. There is clear bias in these games, So that's the problem with the NFL right now. At the same time, Josh Allen, complete that pass to Dalton Kincaid. How about that? Take the refs out of it. You didn't. You lost. Sean McDermott complained about it, and Sean McDermott is freaking fired. I cannot believe they fired Sean McDermott. The tough thing about firing McDermott this year is that there is nobody left in the tank. Everybody is out there looking for coaches. You're gonna be in a bidding war. That's what sucks about firing your coach this late. Was it somewhat because he stuck up for his team after some of those calls? Probably. But, how many times are you going to blow the game, Josh Allen? That was on you too, Josh Allen. Sorry. That one against the Kansas City Chiefs, you let the refs decide that. You were at the line. I know. Everyone knows that. The refs put you back and screwed you. Don't leave it up to them. You could have won that game and you didn't. That's the problem here. It's like you were still in position to win it. And of course, when you're going to go away from home, that's the kind of crap you're going to get. But then you should have freaking beat the Patriots this year, right? You should have beat the Texans this year. You shouldn't have had some of those ugly losses, Bills. The Carolina Panthers. So I don't feel too sorry for the Bills because this is what we get in the NFL, but it is what it is. There was PI on that final play, but I complained about it because you weren't calling it like that all game. And there's more examples than just one where you didn't call it. That's what pisses me off about the NFL. But either way, college basketball, been fun, hot, really great Saturday in college basketball. Kyle Hunter and I both hit our dogs. I forgot to parlay them. I did put some beer money on the most likely. Actually, it was a beer bet banger because we didn't do Spaces, which Spaces is coming back, by the way. Sacramento State, Mike Bibby is a coach, won outright against Northern Colorado. And mine was Grand Canyon winning outright against Utah State. So both around the plus 220, plus 240 range was a hell of a lot of fun, man. And huge props to Kyle for coming on the show and bringing it. That Duquesne under was fantastic. It was against Fordham, I believe. Yeah, that was way under. There was no sweating that one. We hit a lot of unders. One of our only losses was Iowa State not covering because they lost outright, which is crazy to me. And the under with UCLA versus Ohio State, all the rest of the bets hit. We hit Nebraska minus 5.5. Cal plus 6.5. Cal went outright. We hit Iowa, Indiana under. Michigan State, I decided to go with the under. I know I said I was going to go maybe spread, but it went under by a half point depending upon where you got it. LSU hit minus 1.5. St. John's hit at Pick'em. It was a good college basketball weekend, minus Kent State's mess up on Friday, which will make our next segment. The good, the bad, and the ugly of the weekend, and plenty to go around, even though college football is almost over. Grand Canyon, good. We're starting with the good. Grand Canyon winning outright. That was fun. They have a great home court here in Phoenix. Love watching Grand Canyon. Nebraska hoops. You just got to keep betting them. You just got to keep betting them. You know, they just keep covering. I'm not stopping until they lose. Florida hoops is back, by the way. Florida going to Vanderbilt, whipping some ass. You got to give Florida a lot of credit here, and they do have the best front court, I think, in college basketball right now. Caleb Williams, that pass to tie the game. Oh, that's awesome. And Komet was great too, man. But, I mean, both of them, that was just unreal. You know, the saddest thing about the Bears is this was the funnest team in the world. And that makes my next good. This Bears season was just so fun. It was fun, man. That's what I'm going to miss the most about the Bears. Arizona Wildcats, you know, they just keep winning. They cover, but they won at UCF. I almost bet UCF. I got to give props to the Rams interception by Cam Curl. DJ Moore was not in the right spot. He saw the ball, jumped, made an amazing catch. I got to give props where props is due on that one. And Miami, Ohio hoops. That win in overtime against Buffalo. You know, Miami, Ohio, and Nebraska and Arizona are the undefeated teams that you care about.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Now for the bad. Iowa State losing again at Cincinnati. What the hell was that, Iowa State? They're playing tomorrow, and I'm going to look at that spread, but I don't know, man. I'll probably have to bet it, but D'Amico Ryans and all his pass plays while winning in a freaking away environment, terrible weather. Yeah, great job, D'Amico Ryans. You really know what you're doing over there. Tennessee losing to Kentucky. Man, the Vols are just always a fringe team, aren't they? There's always really good, but not great enough. They're actually kind of worse than they've been this year, though. This whole Tennessee thing is just not looking good. North Carolina on the road. You lose to Stanford. Choked up a massive lead. And then you're down by a shit ton. There's not enough time left to come back, and you start coming back against Cal, but it wasn't enough. North Carolina on the road. What is going? That's coaching, dude. Sorry, their coach is not good there. Time to get rid of Hubie. You know, Hubert Davis is not the man. The illegal shift called on the Texans. All the guy did was go into a 3-point stance, and that happens all the time when their people are in motion. You called that? Watch the offensive line. Watch a lot of people. Wide receivers. People flinch, and you're not calling illegal shifts. It's because it was a touchdown you called it. And the Falcons hiring Kevin Stefanski. Dude, I don't like him, Stefanski. I don't think he's any good. I think that Cleveland, he was coach of the year because Cleveland had the easiest schedule. Not saying that it's a hard division because it's not. You should be able to win with the talent you have there, but we'll see. Maybe they do have a good year next year, but I don't know. They're going to be one of those teams that I'm just really afraid to bet on or even against. Now for the ugly. Friday night started out rough. Kent State allowing Toledo to get that garbage back door cover.
You suck!
You know? It's you miss a free throw, it's fine. But playing no defense because you're up 5 and just letting them have a free throw, Of course, the dude probably should have shot a three, but I see it a lot, man. It's not quite a bad beat because I see it all the time, but play some defense at the end of the game. You know, it's just like you don't need to do that. I kind of feel like it's almost a losing mentality to do something like that. Or maybe I'm just freaking bitter. Anyways, another ugly C.J. Stroud throwing picks all freaking day, horrible balls. He makes some great passes, but it doesn't make up for his bad ones. D'Amico Ryan's not going to Davis Mills is another ugly. And obviously, D'Amico Ryan's with the timeouts in the second half. At the end of the game, you're left with one timeout. And then you punt the ball. You freaking punt the ball with 4 minutes left on fourth down, and you're down 2 scores by 12 points. You punt the ball. Who are these freaking people making decisions in the NFL? You know? Who are these idiots? It absolutely blows my mind. DJ Moore's lazy route, that was bad. I rewatched it. It is bad. That you gotta make that cut in. It was a wide open field. The bad pass interference against the Denver Broncos, which was pass interference, but you weren't calling a game. Basil parlay that with the interception that you called in one game and not the other. And obviously, the most ugliest thing is Bo Nix, after being awarded the win, breaks his freaking ankle taking a knee.
Blondie, hey, you realize we might be risking our lives?
Yeah. And if I get killed, you'll never get your hands on all that beautiful money.
All right. Now it's time to talk a little bit about these lines coming out for next week. And this is kind of a first look, and I do have a play for you. And this is for the NFL. And I'm actually going to give you a quick recap because I'm not going to close this show out, even though I'm recording midday on Monday. I want to talk a little bit about the college football national championship close here and, just kind of give you my thoughts on how the game went. I'm very excited to watch the game. I have no bets on the game. We finished the college football season winning up about 20 units. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But either way, let's get into some NFL conference championship weekend lines. Starting with the Patriots Broncos, it's plus 5.5. The total is 41.5. This is a pretty big reaction to a hurt quarterback. I think that most power ratings would have Denver really close to Patriots. Let's see what Sagarin has in the NFL. And it's important to know what you're adjusting here from Bo Nix to Jarrett Stidham. Sagarin's got the Patriots actually pretty high at 26.07. And he has the Denver Broncos at 24.05. So with the home field, it's a pick 'em, and they're, according to Sagarin, they're giving Bo Nix 5.5 points down to Jarrett Stidham. So that means, the quarterback is worth 5.5. I don't know. I kind of feel like in this situation at home, in weather, when your defense is really solid and the Patriots are finally going away from home into a tough environment, that 5.5 is a little bit too much to award for this situation. Now, if this was away in a dome, I would probably award 6 to 7 points for the loss of Bo Nix down to Jarrett Stidham. But in this situation, it feels just a little bit different because Denver's got one of the best home fields in all of football. ESPN FPI has the Patriots way down there, 2.8 points better than the average team, while the Denver Broncos were 4 points better than the average team, but they're dropping the Broncos 8 points down to minus 2.1 for the injury. So they're giving them a massive downgrade. Yet, if you give 2 points for home field advantage, or let's just say 1 point, that means The Patriots should only be 3-point favorites here. 3 to 3.5 maybe. Not 5.5, right? I'm going to give them 1.5 points of home field advantage, which means this should be 3.3 according to FPI. Okay. And finally, team rankings that does not adjust for injuries has the Broncos 3.4 points better than the average team and the Patriots 5.2. So they're a little bit closer to Sagarin. My opinion on this is that I'm taking the points. I don't think it touches 6. And if it is, shame on me. But this is the free play that I'm giving out for this show because Denver is just too tough on defense. When this kind of happens, Sean Payton knows not to put it in Stidham's hands. As a matter of fact, he's going to have some gadgety plays that probably put some guys in space, some easy rollouts, some easy crossers that Stidham should be able to do. Is he going to be mobile like Knicks? No. He's not going to have that kind of advantage. I'm assuming he's going to run the ball a little bit. Maybe I'll look for a Stidham rushing prop over, just like we hit the Knicks one last week. But, in this situation, I just think it's too many points. I think Denver's defense is too good. And the way that they stuffed Buffalo for most of that game, kind of shows you that. Let's grab the home dog here in the cold weather in cold Colorado, plus the 5.5 for 2 stars.
You like that? You like that?
So Seattle's favored by a 2.5 to 3. I'm going to check the odds board to give you a little bit more of a fair line. Now, the look ahead about a week and a half ago was probably more like Seattle -2. This is not much of an adjustment, but the Rams have just not looked that good. It's 2.5 -116, -120. Pinnacle's -116. It's 3 -104 at Bally's, for example. I bet MGM is -3 -102. It's a really hard 3. I think Seattle wins this game. I flipped. Now, can Sam Darnold turn into a pumpkin and suck? Absolutely. He absolutely can. But the Rams were banged up a little bit against the Bears. And the Rams have another away game, barely getting by Carolina and the Bears. And the Seattle is got the best offensive and defensive combination in the entire freaking land of sports. So before I picked my pick was Buffalo against the Rams for the Super Bowl. I think I was wrong. I think Seattle's going to win this game. The question that I have is it worth the spread? Looking at EPA on offense, the Rams rank number 2, and the Seattle Seahawks rank only number 14, believe it or not, in offensive EPA per play. But on defense, Seattle's number 1. According to EPA, they're better than the Texans. And then you look for the Rams, they're number 7. Okay. So that's why the spread is so close. But what have you done for me lately? Postseason weeks. Let's include postseason weeks. Let's go since week 12, including postseason weeks. Since week 12. Let's see where these teams rank. I think it's interesting to do that and look at EPA. On defense, Seattle's still number 1. The Rams, number 15. The whole what have you done for me lately is not working out well for the Rams. Now, I will say that the Rams, since week 12, is number 1 on offense, partially because they're playing a lot of those bad defenses, and Seattle's number 12 on offense. So according to the metrics, Seattle is a little bit better. Is it enough to get to 3? We'll talk more about that on our Thursday/Friday show. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the college football national championship recap. All right. Well, that certainly was a heck of a national championship game. It certainly was not without flaws as well. It wasn't the best national championship game we've watched, but it was satisfying seeing a team like Indiana go 16-0, come from being the worst program in, I guess, Power 4, Power 5 NCAA history, I would say, in general, right? For expectations and everything by the size of your school. Second most losses ever to winning a national championship. It is absolutely amazing. I kind of feel for my Miami friends, though. That team had heart. They played hard. They had some mistakes on special teams, and I think that's really kind of how it went down. First of all, it started out really weird. You know, Mendoza got hit in the jaw with the helmet really bad. I mean, it was really bad. It was blatant targeting, and that you could see the play was over. He handed it off, and the guy just jacks him in the mouth. That was dirty / targeting, and that wasn't called. Now I'm like, okay, make sure you call the whole rest of the game like that, right? I'm like, if you're not going to call that, fine. I mean, if that was the Badgers, there'd be about 50 flags on the field. But the fact that you didn't call it, I'm like, whatever. Indiana also struggled running the ball in the beginning. They couldn't really get the run going. Black had some big chunk yard plays, but for the most part, he was stopped. Miami couldn't convert a third down in the whole first half. You know that looked bad. The score was about 10-zip at halftime, and it never felt like Miami was really in that game until the second half. They started kind of making a comeback here, and Indiana first goes up by a lot again by a punt block. They block a punt, get a touchdown. Another special teams blunder, because you remember the first half, Miami missed a field goal. So that's two big special teams blunders. And if it wasn't for that, it's final score 27-21. You don't know how close of a game that could have been. But Miami, in the second half, made some really nice drives. Malachi Toney was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. Fletcher played decent for what he could do. Sometimes he was shut down too, but he had some big holes. And, Carson Beck kind of kept him in the game until the very end. The very end, it was like 3rd and 15, and they gave a cheap roughing penalty against Indiana. Very routine hit to the quarterback right after the pass is gone. And I thought that was absolute trash, because especially what you let go in the first. This is kind of what we're talking about of consistency with officiating. If you don't throw that flag, don't throw one when the other quarterback gets hit. But instead they saved them and almost could have cost them the game by doing that. And that's how this crap really decides games in many cases. Thank God Indiana was able to get it together and get that interception. I don't know why Carson Beck felt that he had to go for the whole touchdown there from midfield when you had about 50 seconds left. I know they were out of timeouts, but first downs are stop the clock anyway, and you can spike the ball, because it's not like you're going 4 downs anyway when you're in hurry up. They had plenty of time to score that touchdown, and they just kind of rushed it, kind of like the Bears did when they played a couple, Sunday night, right? They rushed it. You could have won the game if they played it smart. But, that's just the adrenaline of the situation, and trying to get your players into positions to make plays. But he was covered, and they had a pretty easy pick there. Two knees, and Indiana's 16-0 history, go down as the biggest story comeback for a university I've ever seen in my entire life. And there should be movies about this team. There should be movies about Kirk Cinetti, about Mendoza, and what he went through when he transferred from Cal and all that. It's just been an amazing season. And I was really happy to watch them win. I wish that I did take them to win the title before the season started, because you probably would have got a nice number. I never thought they'd make that big of a step, but I was wrong. I thought it'd be Oregon, maybe. I wasn't even too high on Oregon. I think I was always Ohio State this year, I believe. But Indiana just punched people in the mouth, and now this program's people 4-star recruits are begging to go there. That's the dream that I had for the Badgers when they were in the top 10 over the past 20 years, quite often, because they turned that program around with Barry Alvarez back in the 90s. So, unfortunately, they're the one that took the step back, and now Indiana takes a step forward and maybe will be a serious player here in the Big Ten as they do have money. But congratulations to Miami. Amazing season, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. To recap, we're taking the Denver Broncos at home plus 5.5 for 2 stars. Tune in later this week. Our podcast will be dropping every Friday morning, recording it usually around 1:30 Mountain Time on YouTube. Please feel free to join us live and ask a few questions. And the talk is going to be mainly NFL, Super Bowl. We're going to have a lot of Super Bowl props and all that fun, as well as college basketball every Saturday. Enjoy the rest of the week and go get some winners.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope, she bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.